You never know. And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Plate Stack Chat. My name, of course, is Jason, and I like to bring on some fun people for a chat. But as the United Grid League head towards a big event in Vegas next month, I have been gathering representatives from all the teams, and today it is the turn of the Tampa Bay Brigade. So let's meet our guests. First up, we have a utility player for the Brigade. She has been doing CrossFit for quite a while. This year will have been her 10th CrossFit Open. She is a level 2 coach and the owner of Redemption Physical Therapy, so she can break you down and put you back together. Please welcome Marissa Oxenford.
Hey guys.
Hello, Marissa. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I want to bring up some things, but first, before I do that, we've got to bring in our other guest. So joining us is one of those crazy gymnastic guys. I'm sorry, bodyweight specialists. So you will probably see him swinging on a bar or some rings. His stats include 30 ring muscle ups for time in less than 2 minutes at 155, Diane in 244, and 2 medium pizzas in one sitting. So I will let you decide what is most impressive. Please welcome Chris Cioffi.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me.
Hello, Chris. Welcome. So we've got to put it out there straight away. If people see lights flickering, or I don't know, things flying through the walls or flying off the walls, you're in the middle of a hurricane at the moment.
I guess so. The residual of what's passing us, right? You know, Tampa gets pretty lucky. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you say you know. I don't know.
I
don't know. I'd have to deal with this kind of stuff. We get some rain and winds, and everybody loses their minds.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's not anywhere near what you guys are dealing with. So, yeah, it's commendable though that you do the show anyway.
Trudging through.
It's not too bad right now. I mean, it's a little windy. It's supposed to get a little bit worse later. So we're on the outskirts of it. It's actually heading up towards Tallahassee. So we will see.
Chris has like meteorologist friends. So like you want an actual report, he can give it to you.
Yeah. Well, when we were booking in the episode, he did say, okay, by the way, we're tracking a storm, we're tracking a hurricane that's moving through, but potentially it will miss us at the end. And I was like, well, okay, do what you got to do.
My outside of grid is I'm a structural engineer for insurance companies who focus in on natural hazards. So we're keeping a close eye on this one.
All right. Okay. This is interesting. And we're joined in the chat, of course, by the fabulously tall Arthur. Looking forward to he's looking forward to some burpee to rings in Vegas.
Oh.
That's it.
If Marissa stands on my shoulders, we may have a chance.
Yeah. Oh, Arthur, that's the other picture we need then. So yeah, I need a picture next. So we need a picture of him next to Sydney, because I didn't realize she was quite short, because she never has any pictures next to anybody. All her pictures are on her own. So Arthur told me he'd get a picture next to her. And now I would like a picture of Marissa standing on Chris's shoulders next to you, Arthur. So if you can get that done.
Probably still taller.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on in Vegas. Forget the grid matches; they're not important. He's got some photos I need gathered. Speaking of, you both have been. So what's interesting? I put out a post, like ticking off all the teams that I've spoken to, and I think there were just 3 remaining at the moment. And this was one of them: the Aces and the Breakers. And so I was like, who do you want me to talk to from these teams? And immediately someone on your team was like, you've got to speak to Marissa and Chris. They're like the leaders. They've been with us forever. They've gone through everything. And I'm like, what have they gone through? I'm really intrigued.
We've rebuilt this team, to say the least. And so Chris and I have been through some of the tougher years in regards to the team dynamic. And we have finally, this year, I tell you what, we have finally gotten there. Between me, Chris, and Jess doing a lot of rebuilding, this team is on point when it comes to the bonding, for sure.
Yeah, I think Jess did the most building by physically building another human, but
Oh
that's
my God. Yeah, I want no parts of that.
yeah. I can't believe she competed. Like, that was the shocking thing. I think I spoke to her, it might have been before the season, like just before the season had kicked off. And she sort of, I almost thought she was joking when she was like, "Oh, but you might still see me on the." I was like, I don't know. I mean, I've seen you training while pregnant. That's fine, but I'd be surprised to see you kind of actually competing. Oh no, you can't stop
when
it.
Jess wants to do something. When Jess wants to do something, she'll do it. So there's no joking there.
So now she's had the baby. Congratulations, Jess. That was, that's exciting.
Yeah.
What are the chances we're going to see her on the floor of Vegas?
You know what's so funny is that, like, even when because I texted my mom, because Jess and I are really good friends, so like my family knows her, and I texted my mom. I was like, she had her baby, blah blah, and she's like, you better watch out. She's gonna book a flight to Vegas now, and I was like, I wouldn't be surprised. Poor
baby's first day to Vegas. Why not?
Seriously, I would not be surprised if she did that.
So how long have you both been with the team then? How long has the team been around, I guess?
So I'm going on 5 years. So my first season was during COVID. So we had the AS1 tournament. It was all one season in one weekend. So I got thrown into the deep end that match, or that weekend. Had no idea what was going on. Was complete lost puppy. But yeah, then now I'm on my 5th season. And Marissa, I think you came 1 year after me.
Yeah, this is my 4th. So I didn't do the AS1. I came the year after.
Yeah. Oh, so you missed that really exciting season of COVID.
Yeah.
What a shame. What a shame.
It's funny. I came to Florida. So I moved here like 4 years ago. So I came down to Florida to watch them at their last, and things happened and they didn't get to compete. But yeah, so I came down to watch them. Then we all went out afterwards, and then I ended up moving to Florida and joining the team.
I see. It was that just going down to watch them, that was enough. Yeah.
Huh?
What did you say, Chris?
That was the first time I met you. That was the first time I met you, was after the AS1 tournament. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And were you already recruiting at the time? You're like, oh, hi, who are you? Marissa. Oh, hi, Marissa. What do you do?
How
fit are you?
To Jess and the old coach, I had been talking to them a little bit because they were like, we heard you might be moving to Florida. So I knew them. But yeah, there was a few people that I went out with that night on the team that I had never met. And then 1 year later, I was on the team.
Yeah, I feel like there was machinations going on behind the scenes of like, let's take Marissa out. Just be really nice to her. Be really friendly. Keep telling her how wonderful it is down in Florida. Don't mention the hurricanes. She doesn't need to know about
this. Yeah, they left that out.
So, like, obviously, what's going on in Vegas is, it's going to be a big, like, that's a huge thing at the Olympia, and all of that. But I guess, like, also even this season, just the change and kind of seeing the expansion again of grid, like how's that, considering, other people I've spoken to have maybe been on the team a year or 2 years, or it's their rookie season kind of thing, where if you've been there for, a couple of years now and you've sort of seen grid, going from strength to strength, it looks like at the moment. So kind of how does that all feel this year then with everything going on?
Yeah, I think Vegas is a big step, and so one, it's out of state, so that's awesome, right? Plus, like you said, Mr. Olympia is there, which we did in Orlando last year, and it was, the volume of people was incredible. So just for pure exposure outside of the state at something as big as Mr. Olympia, is pretty cool, It's been, you see a lot of the teams, fundraising and stuff like that. So there's been challenges that we have to overcome, of course, but it will be good for the sport in regards to exposure, Yeah.
So you said there was like a similar thing last year. Did people, so you have kind of the traffic, right? You've got all the people there. They're walking past, they're coming away. Do they stop? Do they watch? Do they get involved? Like, did you notice kind of more people in the crowd, or unfamiliar faces in the crowd that were kind of interested? And if so, sort of, what's their reaction to it?
It's actually wild to see. It's wild to see the different people that come and stop by. It'll be everyone from weightlifting to wrestling to the security guards that are walking by, and they're just shocked at what we do and what we can do with our bodies and what what teamwork looks like. And they've never really seen a male-female sport, so that's really shocking to them. And what's really interesting is you look back, 4 or 5 seasons ago to the AS one, or even the year after that, we were always at Valor Fitness in St. Pete over in Clearwater, Tampa area. And that was all friends, relatives that would come and watch it. So you never really had that outside source. Now you throw us into the middle of a convention center and people just come by and it's just wild to them. So when I first heard about Grid, it was kind of through word of mouth. One of my coaches was on the Orlando Aces. That's kind of how I got pulled into Grid. And then now it's just blown up over social media, over the conventions that we're at, and people will just look at you. They'll see your name, your number, and they'll add you on Instagram, and it's just really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's kind of one of the things where when you see it, like, you can explain it or you can tell people about it, but seeing it is very different. And I even know, like, we had there's an event held at the university sort of near here, that's like it's a CrossFit event, but it's a team event, but it's like a team of, I'm going to get it wrong, I want to say 12. It's a 12-person team. You've all got to be from the same affiliate. Two of them have to be masters athletes. So one's got to be over 35, one's got to be over 45. It's a mix of guys and girls. They hold it every year at the university. And I know there are a couple of people that go to the CrossFit affiliate I go to now who were at the university and they just saw it like happening there. And then they were like, what is this? And then they follow it through and they check it out. I imagine it's a similar thing, right? Like, yeah, it's a race kind of with barbells and different moves, some gymnastics movements, and you do some stuff in the ring. It's like, oh yeah, I can sort of kind of picture what you mean. And then you see, like, they see Chris doing a ring to handstand, and you go, okay, there we go. That's not what I was picturing in my head at all.
Yep. I mean, even like a lot of we'll tell CrossFitters, because we all the time we get, what is Grid, and it's kind of hard to explain until you actually see it. And we're like, it's CrossFit-esque, but like not really, because it's. I mean, there's a lot of circus tricks in there for sure that we don't do in CrossFit, and like you said, just the level of speed is completely different. It's a completely different game. It's hard to even label it as CrossFit-esque because it's just not. It's in a league of its own.
Yeah, and then people get, as soon as you say that, they start getting a little bit kind of, I don't know, defensive almost, which is
100%.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Yeah, that's what CrossFit does.
Yeah. Well, so I'm very much in the camp of anything, like that's it's a separate sport. And you can tell people, like, this is a thing. If you like it, I like it. Okay, if you want to get good at it or better at it, what's really good? Maybe go do CrossFit. That's probably the best thing I could suggest for you to go and do to get better at this. So I like, Grid. Obviously, if you're a strength specialist or a bodyweight specialist, maybe there's some other places to go as well that will help you. But it's kind of like, if you want to have access to the tools and the things that we're using, check out your local affiliate. They'll probably have what you need. And then there's like the international, the IF3, International Functional Fitness Racing kind of thing. Similar thing. Like, they're not doing a methodology. They're just saying, hey, here's a sport. And if you want to get good at this sport, maybe you should go check out, your local CrossFit affiliate. That's probably where they'll be able to help you. So I see it as like net positive for everyone involved. But of course, social media is a very different place to be. And not everyone is as friendly as me anyway. I mean, what's been your experience with that in general, guys? Like, do you get, Chris, you were saying like now it's cool that people kind of see you and just start following you so there's a lot of positives on there as well. I mean, do you get a lot of kind of, what are you doing? What is this? Your clowns kind of thing?
The comment section. You go right to the comment section and you get people who will say, well, that's no rep. That's a no rep. That's bad form. Or, I had a reel that went viral. It was med ball butterfly ring muscle ups, and they were like, "You should learn how to do strict first." And I'm like, "You don't think I could do a strict ring muscle up, let alone a med ball butterfly?" It's a different sport. It's different. I can do the fundamentals, but that's not what the goal here is. The goal is fast paced. You want to go as fast as you can against someone else, and it's not traditional CrossFit. It's just not. And you'll get people in the comments who, I had someone say you're giving CrossFit a bad name, and you have to sit there and you have to pick your battles because there's only so much you can fight against it. Because people are gonna have their own opinions, but we're different. We're different.
Yeah. Do you find it hard to fight that, like, kind of? Because I've seen different people within, I know quite a lot of you now within the grid sphere. And it's interesting when I see some people that are very quick to kind of jump into the comments and be like, right, no, how dare you? Let's go to war over this. And I mean, even today there were a couple of comments that I was like, oh no, don't say anything. Just just step back and observe. But I imagine, it's you kind of it's like you want to defend yourself, but also you're kind of like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Yeah. I mean, even today, just before coming on here, I saw there was like a reel from Barbell Spin, and they were talking about this. I didn't listen to their show, so I don't know exactly. I've just seen the snippet of the reel, but there were some comparisons to like the Tier Cup and Grid League, and the same thing. And then there were comments, and people like, in the comments, some people being like, "Oh, I actually really like Grid," or like this, and somebody said something about how they like Grid, but it's like the movement standards was the issue or something like that. Like they don't seem to adhere to movement standards or something like that. And I'm just like, oh, if you just saw the no reps that get thrown out during the matches, like, you'd know that they do. Like the standards are there, but you don't necessarily know what the standard is. And so you're not seeing that it's a different standard, but there is a standard. And boy, do they get no reps. So you'll see that too. Yeah. But if you're watching, that little clip on a reel and you don't know the standard, then you're like, oh, they're doing terrible form. They don't know what they're doing. It's like,
yeah. And I think that's where, there's certain personalities that love to fight in the comments, and that's cool. That's them, that I find it exhausting, but that's just me, So, and I think that kind of over the couple years that I've been in the league, I've learned how ignorant people are about it, about the whole process and the standards of it. And like you said, we move so fast that sometimes the judges have a hard time seeing if it's a rep or no rep. How are we supposed to expect the normal eye to see it? You know what I mean? So I think you learn that over the years that these comments aren't always from a malicious standpoint. They're more from a ignorant standpoint, or they just aren't familiar with the sport, and so you can either take the opportunity to cut them down and start a war in the comments, or you can take an opportunity and be like, hey, like Chris said, like, hey, actually I can do strict muscle ups. Like the reason that I do butterfly muscle ups is because it's for speed and I save 2 seconds a rep when I do it that way. And then the rest of it's on them. If they want to take that advice or the opportunity to learn, then great. If they don't, that's cool. They can continue to play video games in their basement. Whatever, whatever works.
So normally, Marissa, I would be like, I'm above all this. But I got like hit by friendly fire yesterday, and I was like, what is it? Because I'd commented on the video from was it Nick doing like the burpee? Oh, it wasn't. It was the dumbbell box. It was meant like everyone else was doing step ups and he was jumping, right? Mm-hmm. And ages ago, that was a while ago that reel went up and people were commenting that, and there was something where somebody was like, some comment about like Grid just makes up these crazy movements, like again a kind of, this is what are they doing? This is bad CrossFit. They're making up movements, and I was like, it's a dumbbell box like step over. Everyone else was stepping over. We like a movement we've seen at CrossFit events, but he's jumping. Like that's the crazy thing. No one else was jumping, just he's jumping. And then and this, I don't know how long ago this was, but anyway, in this comment, and I think some other, other members of the Sharks are like in this thread that I'm commenting on, and we're agreeing with each other. And then some person, for lack of a better word, just had a go at me yesterday. It was like, "Oh, you're just jealous because they're, you're like CrossFit crybaby because you're just jealous because they're so much better than you." And I'm like, and I replied to it. I was like, "Are you sure I'm the person you want to go to war with? Like, I know Nick, and I know that like Figo, and I'm defending them, and like what?"
Yeah.
And
like,
then
did you read the comments
and then
before you?
that's why I said maybe reread the thing, and then I posted it on my story, and then he like doubled down. I'm like, "Oh, you posted it on your story. You're really crying about this sort of thing." I'm like, "No, I just kind of figured that people won't see it because it's so buried, and I'd love them to see that like I'm the person who hates grid." But if you just click on my profile, you'll see that I've been systematically interviewing every team in the league, and I've had Mather on, and I've had Cassie on, and like I've been really trying to dissect and understand everything about the league. But never mind. What do I know? Speaking of, maybe you guys can help with this. Good afternoon, Jeffrey Birchfield from Texas, I want to say. I was looking at possibly judging opportunities at the Grid League Championship. He says that he sees they have their own refereeing team. Is that how it works? I wonder how you can get involved. Email them.
Yeah, also that's probably your best bet is to go to the United Grid League website and contact them. The commissioner or the board will set them in the right direction.
Yeah.
Either do that or Instagram too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially as we grow the sport. I'm sure they're going to be looking for out-of-state judging and refs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we know he's got a good eye because when Dylan was on from the Venoms, we'd only just started. We'd only been speaking like a couple of minutes, and he was wearing a cowboy hat. And Jeffrey chirps up in the comments with, "I think your hat's on backwards." And it was amazing. So
if anyone knows, it's going to be a Texan.
yeah. So I trust him. I think he'll be able to call those no reps.
Yeah.
Just make sure you find the grid standard as opposed to the CrossFit. Well, because the example I've used recently, the last match, that we had the last set of matches, I guess. The first race you had those pistol thrusters, and I remember watching it, and like Griffin was just getting no repped like constantly, and in the chat people are like,
"Yep.
Oh, but what he's locking out, he's getting depth, he's locking out," and everybody is like looking at it with that CrossFit eye of kind of, but he's fully locked out, but he's hitting depth, like why is he getting no reps? And it was all to do with the arm like position
above his shoulder.
Yeah.
And so
we were watching that in the back before when we were doing our warm-ups, and we read through all the standards before, and that is one of the rules about those pistol thrusters is your hand cannot come above your shoulder. You're the one that you're not using to pistol.
Yeah.
So you got to keep it down. So he was getting no rep for that, I guess. It happens.
Yeah, but it's just that thing. And now, like going back, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see it. I understand why. But like in the moment, the chat was getting feisty.
Yeah. Yep.
But
there's some standards that are a little different than CrossFit, right? And like you said, like they try to standardize every part of it. And it's in the handbook. Like, when those pistol thrusters, that hand rule, as weird as it may be or sound, it's in the handbook, saying like bar muscle ups, our feet are allowed to go above the bar. We can do a glide kip. You can't do a glide kip in CrossFit. So there are some nuances in that in regards to the standards.
Do you like that then, Chris? Because you've got a gymnastics background, so being able to like do a glide kip and things like that, like do you like that?
Yeah. When it comes to grid versus CrossFit, I honestly do terrible in CrossFit. Marissa can attest when it comes to the open and they have regular ring muscle ups, I get no rep left and right because my feet come above the rings. And it's just how my body's programmed. I don't, I do CrossFit. I work out at a CrossFit gym, so I'll do the open here and there, but my main training is grid. So when it comes to CrossFit, I get no rep left and right.
Yeah, you're like, I'm just too exceptional. I'm just too fit. They need to adjust their standards for me. Yeah. Oh, Jeffrey's got a very good point here, though, as well. Says that any good judge reads the standards for each competition, regardless. That is true. That is true.
And players.
Yeah.
And athletes.
Yeah. The athletes should read. Yeah. Well, they ask.
We both have to take accountability.
So yeah, and what's cool about the standards too, though, like you said with Nick Cioffi and the box, it was box get overs. So it didn't say box step ups. It was box get overs. So he was able to jump, but it still count. So there's some vagueness in some of the rules, and you're allowed to play around with that and bend that around a little bit. Very similar to our aerials, or that we had, where some people were doing a different variation of it. So it all depends. You have to read that standard, understand it, talk with your coaches, and really dive deep into it to see if it's going to be a good rep or not.
Which is also good because that sort of leaves that door just like a crack open for innovation and for people to kind of push the envelope a little bit. Be like, well, technically this is a way I could do it, and it's going to be faster. And often we see, even in other sports, but we see in other sports where people are like, oh, that worked for him, let me try it, and it just push it, and then it becomes the norm. Like I think the what is it, the Fosby flop, for the high jump, right? Like one person decided, if I go backwards, I can jump higher.
Yeah.
And before that, people just used to run and jump. and now if you saw someone do that, you'd be like, that's crazy. You're never gonna.
Yeah. How inefficient. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it allows for, like you said, a lot of innovation and strategy. I mean, there's so much strategy that goes into this as well, in regards to playing with the line of the rules and transitions and stuff like that. There's so much strategy.
Oh, Jeffrey. So what's been happening recently? I say recently, like pretty much every grid episode we've done, just organically a different element has come up. So like with a couple, we talked about certain races and how they function, and then I think when Paul Bear was on, we actually talked about the scoring system and the which his new teammates were not super happy to hear about when they discovered where they were on the table. But anyway, it's besides the point. But Jeffrey's asking about the appeal process in grid for like no repticals you don't agree with. Grid has some really interesting kind of ways of solving, I don't want to say bad calls, but yeah, if it's like a call that really affects the finish of the race, what happens? Maybe you can talk us through, and also if you've ever experienced it yourself personally, either of you, in the years you've been doing it. Marissa's got a story. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, like you said, it depends. I think they'll always they have video review, right? But occasionally, yes, they'll rerun the race, or they rerun a portion of the race, like the last half, right? So the reason we laughed is Ninja and I just laughed is because we reran triad, girls triad was it the last match?
Yes.
And I mean, triad is known for being grimy. Like it's just known for being one of those just grimy races. It usually ends with a terrible element for like 16 reps and you're just smoked afterwards. And there was some sort of call on the other side that was unfair. So we had to rerun the second half of the race, and rerunning the second half of the grimiest race it was like soul crushing. So it's like, no.
Do you remember what the movements were?
Shoulder to overhead,
and then the
deck to squat over box.
Yeah. So it's basically a burpee box jump over, but you have to burpee, and before you jump on the box, you have to hit a full squat.
Yes, Artur, you have to hit a full squat before you jump over the box.
Yes. And there's one of those specific grid elements. You won't see that in CrossFit. But there was 16 of them. So
but also like shoulders, like if it's cleans or something like that, you can kind of recover relatively quickly and be like, okay, let's go again. But once your shoulders blow out, it's like, just trying to do anything again.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty good with those triads. Like they're very good about just smoking you. So by the time you're done triad, you're done for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, on the ground.
Yeah.
What's your favorite race format?
Triad.
Oh, come on.
No.
What are you saying?
I love triad. I love it. I love suffering.
You love suffering. Oh,
You know.
Chris doesn't. Interesting.
No.
Jack and Jill all the way. Come on.
Right.
This is my second favorite, just because I get to do it with Ninja.
Yeah. Is that what you call him Ninja? Is that just between you two, or is that the whole team?
It's mostly me. I think I recruited some people, but yeah, I've always called him Ninja.
The whole team, my partner, my friends.
They do now.
I've taken that name on since the first season.
Yeah.
Is that just because you're like a bodyweight ninja? Is that where it's come from? Just the gymnastics?
Yes, yeah. Yep.
Okay, interesting. You're a utility player though, Marissa, right?
You know.
Here we go. I love. I love digging into this.
I'm labeled as a bodyweight.
Are you labeled as bodyweight?
Yeah, I'm labeled as bodyweight specialist, but I think I'm kind of like a bodyweight light utility, like lightweight. Yeah, utility.
That's interesting because I read utility somewhere. And I think it might have been on your Instagram page.
Yeah. I don't know what they have, but like I said, I throw in. I've been on some kettlebells and barbells here and there. I can handle lightweight.
Can handle lightweight.
Yeah.
So you're like the first quadrant of the grid usually. Yeah, part of 4.
That's it. You know, if I'm hitting a ladder, it's 1 bar.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know. So I think I've hit 2 bars on the clean ladder. That's about as far as I've ever gotten on a ladder.
No, see, that was one of the things I found most fascinating. It was like the ladder being almost like a dream for some of the athletes. I'm like, oh, I just want them to use me on the ladder. Like that means I've made it almost. This idea that they're finally going to let me do the ladder.
I think Marissa and I are the opposite. Where we're
I was going to say I'm getting the impression you don't want to do it.
If they put us in, we're like, don't get to us. Don't get to us. Put us last.
Yeah, we're always last, just in the hopes that we don't get to us.
In the hopes that if you do that 1 bar or 2 bars, then the times run out. So you're like, well, it's not that I couldn't do the 3rd or 4th bar. It's just there was no time.
Yeah.
There was only 1 ladder I went in, and it was the thruster ladder against the aces, and we won the race by 1 point because I hit the bar. And it was a PR. I've never thrustered that before.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the ladders, that's probably the most grim one I can think about.
Yeah, some of them are so. The strength specialists. I mean, everyone in grid league is impressive to me, but like the strength specialists on the ladder are just the fact that they can just run through and then like clean 325. Like I'm just like, what is happening? Like their 4th bar is weight that I just don't even dream about because it's not going to happen.
I believe in you.
It's such a different stimulus too. Like from what we do, what we do is impressive. We do a ton of high reps, but like when you look at the ladder and you hit quadrant 1, 2 in a row, it hurts. It is not easy.
Yeah.
I was thinking about we did like a total the other day. So I go to CrossFit Bath, as if my local affiliate, and they've got like the CrossFit Bath total number 2, and it's I think it's like a 12-minute window to get a 1 rep max front squat, and then I think there's maybe a minute's rest, but then you get like another 12-minute window, and it's a max sumo deadlift, and then you get a little break, and then you have to do max push-ups in 5 minutes. And that is the worst bit. I tell you that. Like that's the bit that kills me. But what's interesting is in that 12-minute window, they're like, like think about the weight to use and make sure like if you're going for this weight, you'll do a couple of reps on the light weight, but give yourself a minute, 2 minutes before you're going to try and hit that final weight. And you're like, yeah, because my body needs a little bit of time before I try and pick up a really heavy weight. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, go 1, 2, 3, now number 4. It's like no
It's
time
impressive.
to breathe. You've got like 12 other people screaming at you to keep moving, to go faster.
Mm-hmm.
And you only get one shot at it as well, right? So if you fail the lift, it's like wasted effort and energy
and time.
Yeah. And guess what? You've got another race coming up as well.
This is true. Yeah. And that's like another part of like, there's a lot that goes into like roster rules and stuff like that and subs. And it's like, once you sub them out, they can't come back and all these different rules. Right. And that's like where the order of the races lie. It's like sometimes you're throwing in body weight specialists because they're in the race and they need to be in the race for a certain race like Echo, but now they're in it, and so you got to throw them into ladder in hopes that they get 1 or 2 bars. There's not high expectations at that point, but yeah, like there's just so many, and they might be going into Jack and Jill after that. So yeah, there's a lot of it's mind-blowing the amount of strategy that goes into building the roster.
So I need to dig into that probably more, because that's maybe one of the elements I haven't, because sometimes I get the impression as well that, like you're saying about like fundraising for Vegas and things like that, it seems that at times it's also just, hey, we'd love to put this person on the team this week, they're unavailable, or they just physically can't make it to the location, or whatever it may be. So you kind of get those limiting factors. But then, as you're saying, there's also like, we see the strategy on the grid, but it's the strategy before you even get there, I guess, that people aren't really seeing, which comes from like constructing the team in the first place, who you're recruiting. But then I guess, just because they're on the team for a previous match doesn't mean they're necessarily on the team, on the roster for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So are you involved in actually making those decisions then, you guys? Or
yeah, this is my first year kind of playing like a little bit of like a captain role. So I've been helping Jess and coach when it comes to like creating the roster and trying to figure out where to plug and play. So I'm still learning, but yeah, this is my first year making some of those decisions or helping with them.
That's how you avoid the ladder.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
Make sure.
We're going to pluck my name out of there.
That's out of that one.
Right. But yeah, it's like, and like I said, I kind of knew a little bit about it just as you grow in the sport, the couple seasons, but like this year has been my first year playing a bigger role in all of that. And like I said, it's exhausting, like building the roster, figuring out the starters, figuring out the subs, when to sub them in and out, because you lose them once you sub them. It's exhausting. It's really challenging.
Yeah.
Really challenging.
Okay, that's my new project. Then I'm gonna look into all of that. Bye, Jeffrey. Thank you for joining us, and
thank you.
Catch it up later, or listen as a podcast, as you prefer. Okay, yeah, that's probably the one element I haven't yet really dug into is kind of understanding even all the rules around that. Like, as you're saying, like if you're subbing someone else in. Like, but it makes sense. I mean, it's the same. Taking it here.
Yeah, I mean, it's with any
taking
sport.
Me 4 seasons to understand it. Yeah, almost 4 seasons until I finally understand all the rules. And I've read the handbook several times. I've highlighted it. I've done, just to understand it. And there's so much beyond just that. We do testers within our own team to find out who's the fastest at what. And yeah, you may be the fastest at partner forward, but unfortunately, you're not on the roster yet because we can't bring you in until midway through the race. So we may put in someone who's just below you, but it's not out of ill will that we don't want you on there. It's because we can't, because of the roster. So it's just a lot.
Right. Okay. So like, let me see if I've gleaned some of the fact. So it might be that kind of, as you said, like you can't use this person on the ladder, right? So you like, we can't use you on the ladder, and we need these 5 people on the ladder, and you're going to replace one of them later.
Exactly.
But before the ladder, there's no way we can put you on because you can't even do the first bar. Exactly. So, all right, I got it. Okay, that is interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's where you'll see some of the the body weights will be, they're like, oh, I didn't expect them to be there. And it's probably some sort of roster thing, you know what I mean? Or, sometimes, someone's getting thrown into, maybe they're not, as skilled at one element, but we need them there, so you figure it out.
When do you know the races?
Pretty early on. I mean, minus some changes, we know them, before the season starts.
Oh, so so you already know everything that's happening in Vegas, what the races are going to be, and you've known that since
right after the first match.
So they basically give you kind of the whole layout of okay, the match is here, these are the races, the match there, and that's the weights and everything. It's kind of all the details of.
Yeah, give or take a few
details.
Yep.
There's a general setup. So they used to be called mountains. Now they're called different things like roll up, and some of the other ones are rope climb, rope jump, or something's another one. Yeah. So they have the different types and standards, and then they pick and choose, and they may change some movements in and out just depending on what equipment they may have in Vegas. Right. One year we had the worm, and then they took the worm out because we no longer have that as part of the equipment, so they put in the flip sled. So it kind of changes just a little bit.
Okay, yeah, but it's more because obviously from where I'm sitting, it's all right, I know the format of the races, so I know there's going to be a triad. I know there's going to be a ringer. I know there's going to be, I know the ladder. It's all there. But beyond that, it's I don't know, okay, I know there's going to be a ladder. Is it going to be a clean ladder, a snatch ladder, or like we saw last time that it was 2 deadlifts and a hang clean or something like that? And so you're oh, that's maybe 2 deadlifts and a clean. I think that's what it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Which was but you already you can start planning way ahead of that and being okay, we'll put these people in because that is interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I wonder if they keep that quiet.
It allows a little bit of finesse, right? Which honestly, I tell you what, like I said, knowing the roster rules now, I don't know how we would do it without that time to plan it and test and stuff like that. And like I said, sometimes people get thrown into things where, hey, listen, you're going to have to learn how to do this because we need you here. You got a few weeks, figure it out. It's so that happens.
So then at the beginning of the season, are you looking forward to particular matches? I mean, okay, all right, next week I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do my best, we've got a good shot. However, next month, that's my wheelhouse, and that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. But I'm gonna try, but that's me. Is it kind of like that at all, or are they balanced enough that you're well, there's always something for me to do?
I think and Marissa, I'll let you bounce off of this, but I think it depends on the player themselves and who's interested in what. I know for Vegas, I'm more excited about match 3, which has a lot of the high skill gymnastics. Match 4 for me is a lot more weightlifting. So I'm not I won't be thrown in any of that. So I'm not as excited, but I know our weightlifters are really excited about match 4 and they're not so excited about match 3.
So right. Do you think that is because you've got them back to back, day wise? So it's sort of the idea is you're going to be using more different people on the one day to the other day, and so you're not just I don't Chris, know. We're going to absolutely torture you with gymnastic movements day 1, and guess what you're doing the next day? You're back on the rings again. So we hope you've recovered.
Well, let's not throw that out completely. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know how strategic that was. I mean, I like to think that they did that strategically. It wasn't just luck.
It wasn't.
But yeah.
Sometimes.
And I mean, for the most part, like Ninja said, for the most part, there's some sort of a balance, right? Because every Jack and Jill is more body weight specialist. Every triad is more utility. So it's they're mostly balanced. However, like he said, some matches are a little more gymnastics bias, some are a little more weightlifting bias. But like I said, for the most part, everyone gets their turn type of deal.
Which I mean, it's kind of what you see anyways. And like, I think like we've got Rogue coming up in November, and it's notoriously like a heavy competition. But they're still doing, muscle ups. They're still doing, all the other stuff as well. But yes, there's usually some, big weights getting thrown up compared to maybe like your Wadapalooza that's perhaps a bit more gymnasticy, or, used to be swimming was like a big thing there, right? So,
right.
But ultimately, they're similar enough, right? But it just certain athletes are going to shine a little bit more at one of these comps compared to the other. So yeah, there's always going to be something for you to do, but it's kind of like we got to let that guy shine a little bit. He can pick up some pretty heavy weight. We got to let him shine. So there you go. Exciting. Yep. Do you find within the different, like, talking through the team and kind of now, especially with you being involved in the roster and knowing kind of the players and stuff as well, we've got Ninja here. He's doing bodyweight stuff with med balls though, so it's not just bodyweight; it's bodyweight plus.
Yeah. Facts.
But recovery wise, who takes a bigger hit during these matches and these races? Like, is it the body weight? You guys are like, obviously there's a lot of explosive movement within like kind of the kips and things like that. But then at the same time, you've got somebody who's like having to PB their clean 3 times in a row,
right?
And they're under. Have you found that sort of certain people get hit a bit harder during races and need a little bit more time to recover, or is it pretty much that you all get beaten down? So
I like you said, I think like, a lot of our strength utility, like they'll get destroyed like the first half, you know what I mean? Because they tend to be in partner forward, and then it's mirror, and then they're probably in echo, and then they're definitely in the ladder. So it's very like heavy weight for like 4 matches in a row or 4 races in a row. Then they kind of get their time to recover, and that's when we come in, right? And I feel like ours is a little more, like you said, high skill fatigue, endurance based fatigue, where theirs is just like CNS high weight fatigue. So yeah, it's a different level of destruction.
Different level of destruction. Yeah. Put that on a t-shirt. We've got.
Right. But the cool thing, and like this kind of like ties into like my physical therapy brain, like your assignments, your role. Like, and this is what I tell people when they're like, they talk about injury in grade. And I'm like, okay, you know what? It's a sport like any other sport. There's injury in football too, but we all love football, so I digress. But like, your assignments, your role, how to train. So if you're a strength specialist, you are training to withstand the demands of the match. If you're a body weight specialist, you're training to withstand the demands of the match, and that changes for every body or for every specialist, right?
Yeah.
But like if you're a body weight specialist and all you do is clean, for the season, well, yeah, that's on you. You didn't train specifically for what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, but they get to be in the ladder and they're happy about that because I feel like they finally made it.
They hit 2 bars on the ladder and that's all that matters.
Yeah. Okay. And then they drop from the team for the next year because they,
they
weren't doing what they were supposed to do. But fair enough. Yeah, that's good. And I mean, yes, the injury discussion is always, it's always it's the same. I mean, notoriously running has more injuries than like anybody else because just everybody goes running and then hurts themselves. So it's sort of one of the things where you can look at the stats any way you like and it's always going to flag something up. But I mean, I've often found, like, I guess anecdotally to a degree, that everybody I know who's like injured doing CrossFit are actually more often injured, like, an injury I picked up playing rugby, that I couldn't play rugby anymore because of this injury. And then I started doing CrossFit because I could still do CrossFit even though I had this thing. And now it's flared up because I did a certain movement. And you're like, so what caused this injury really then? Was it doing CrossFit or was it
overuse?
Yeah. The fact that you played rugby for years and you've, broken your body. So it's yes. But people love to point the finger.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I guess grid is probably an easy target for that because it's you can't. You were saying earlier, like, people, if they can't, even see kind of the movement standards sometimes. So it's sort of like if you can't even comprehend what they're doing, and then someone's injured, it's very easy to be like, well, surely it was that. You're like,
right.
well.
I know. It's like snore.
Yeah, you're like, no, it was they were partying in Vegas after the match and he fell off a table. That's what happened.
Right.
It was fine on the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got? That's actually an interesting question. Has your team got plans for Vegas beyond the grid? Because I've been speaking with some of the other teams, and sounds like they've got some big ideas. But,
yeah. I don't know. I haven't. We haven't really figured that out. I don't think. I would love to see like a show or something, but I don't even drink, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Pretty sure you can see a show without drinking, Marissa. That's fine.
Sightseeing, maybe.
Yeah.
Can I just have a ginger ale?
Yeah. If you want to see a show, you should just watch the other grid teams as they.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually go and watch. Go spy on them and see what they're doing, or you can just FaceTime, Jess and be like, "Oh yeah, it wasn't the same without you, so we didn't think we could possibly go out and have fun."
I'm telling you what, Jess is going to be there, I think. So no, I'm just kidding.
She's gonna show up.
I'm not putting it past her at all.
Yeah,
that would not.
That'd be hilarious.
But
I don't think there are any plans.
So what are your two matches that you've got? Who are you going up against? Do you remember?
So our first one is against Venom. We'll be going first on Friday against Venom. That's going to be our high gymnastics one. And then our second's against the Wild. We're going third on Saturday.
Right. Okay. So going against the Venom, obviously they've signed some new players. They've got, Alex Smith is coming. People are very excited about that within the CrossFit sphere. So Paul's done some maths, and they basically need to win every single race from now until the end of the season if they want to get back into this. So, I don't want to cause trouble, but what are their chances of winning not the match, but every single race?
That's a tough one.
Now, don't look at where they're placing on the table at the moment because they've got a new team. So don't look at that.
Well, and I'll be the first to say, like, I don't underestimate any team. I do not do that because anything can happen on the day of the match, right? It's a tough ask for that team to win the rest of the season for sure. Yeah. And let me be honest, we've been there. Brigade has been there. Like when the year that Ninja hurt himself, it was a shitty year for us. Let's be honest. So every team has been down. So not to say I'm talking shit on the Venom, but
no.
Yes, that's a tough ask. That's a tough ask.
I love the Venom. I've already been talking about Paul about getting them on after Vegas. So I love them, but I just love the maths that he's done where he's like, we've got to win every race. Yeah. And then I'm having to explain to his new teammate what that means. Like not every match.
Even if you look at some of the best teams, you look at the Orlando Aces last year, they were very calculated. They won. They went undefeated the entire season. They lost races. So the best of the best, it happens. It happens. You win some, you lose some. So that is a very bold statement, but I applaud them and I hope for the best for them.
Yeah. Potentially it's the greatest comeback story in grid history. So
it would be, yes.
Yeah. So just remember that.
Yeah.
If you beat them, again, not in the match, but if you beat them on any race, just know that you have killed the greatest comeback story in grid history.
Dreams.
That's funny. Yeah, that's
and I quite liked the fact that the year you had a really bad year was because he was injured. And Chris was sitting back being like, we
had what, 3 season-ending injuries that year?
Yeah, we had 3.
It was just one thing after another. It was exhausting. It was an exhausting
broken brigade.
Yeah, it was a rough season. And it was like, again, We've cleaned up our team a little bit. So we have a very good bonded team this year. It wasn't always that way. It is what it is. We're all adults. It's hard to get 18 people to mesh sometimes, right? So not only were we having these injuries, but we were having some internal struggle as well. It was a tough season. It was exhausting.
That's also been quite a common thread that I've been sort of pulling on through different teams, is that you're all athletes, which gives you quite a kind of killer mentality a little bit, almost like you're very focused on what you're doing, you're very serious about it. It's high pressure, tense situations, different personalities. Not everyone is melding maybe the way you'd hope, and it sounds like there's been a bit of drama across numerous teams, and sometimes across different teams, which is also exciting.
Correct. Yeah.
But hey, it's all good for the gram. It's good for the views on YouTube, so I can't complain.
That's where you choose to partake or stay out of it.
Keep our heads down and just focus.
Right.
Yeah. Is that how you look after the team? Basically, you rally them in, you get them in the gym, and go, all right, guys, just so you know, don't go on Instagram, don't comment on this. This team's stirring up some trouble again. They're calling us out. Rise above.
Yeah. There's some reminders that need to be, thrown out there occasionally. We can't control what other teams say or do. That's on them. And we can't even control our who's on our team. But we can encourage the best behavior that's going to be for to our advantage as a team.
It has been nice that it has sort of. I've noticed this year there's been a little bit more back and forth between teams. There's been some interesting things, and it has kind of, and it's bled over a little bit onto like the live stream that they've been talking about it and things like that. And it does make it, it adds that little bit of drama. It just makes it a little bit more kind of, what's going on there, which I think is good, because you want people to be invested. And again, falling back on CrossFit, for years you were hearing, CrossFit needs a villain. They need someone to.
Every sport has villains.
Yeah, and I'm always of the mind that I've always said I don't think you need a villain. You just need personalities, and that's been one of the biggest problems. There was everybody was like, every interview, every conversation was just, this is how I eat, this is how I train, this, and then you're like, okay, that's. That's fun. So it's nice just to get to see people a little bit and like, and what
that's
they like. What they're
and they're very they used to be very sheep like. Everyone just followed the rules. They said what they were supposed to say. Then you got someone like Danielle Brandon. She gives 2 middle fingers and the whole world explodes, because, like you said, she's got a different personality from the rest of them. Which, like you said, is not a bad thing. It wasn't a bad thing for the sport, and everyone's individual. Like, you let it shine the way you want.
Yeah. And I think that's, and like I think I was saying to you before we went live, but like kind of in the comments, quite often it's been like, I like these grid people. They're a bit more, they're exciting. They're a bit more fun. Kind of, I think it's nice. Like, you just get to see maybe, and maybe it is just because you're, bigger teams. You've got different backgrounds. You're kind of all working together, but you're all individuals. You've, come from a gymnastics background or a sport specific background, and it's just interesting to see it all working out. Now, I know you guys had a hard out at 7, which is 7 for you, which is midnight for me. That it has just ticked over now. So
you get to go to bed.
Yes, I do, which is exciting, because I'm an old man now and I look forward to those kind of things. But it has been lovely chatting with you both, and learning a little bit more about the Brigade. Very excited to see what you're able to do in Vegas, on the grid and maybe off the grid. Who knows? Somebody recommend a show for Marissa.
Yes.
Suggestions to do. And we'll all be on the lookout to see if Jess pokes her head around the corner somewhere at Vegas, comes from behind a box or something. But yes, it's your team's had a lot of exciting things happen this year, so that's nice.
Thank you.
And you're doing well so far, and you've got a couple of good matches come out. So normally I would announce the next shows, but I haven't booked them in yet, so they're next week.
Well, thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
That's all right. I've just got 2 grid teams left, and then I've managed to get around everyone before before Vegas, and
There
then
you
I'll
go.
start getting people back on after, and we'll decompress and look at what went wrong,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
what went very right. That's what we're hoping for. Yeah, all the best at surviving the aftermath of the hurricane. Power didn't go out, so that's excellent.
No, we're
Yeah.
doing good.
So we can't ask for more than that. Thank you everyone that was chirping away in the comments. Really appreciate that. It's always fun, and I hope Jeffrey manages to, one, listen to the rest of the show, and two, get in touch with someone about maybe judging or reffing a match. So, but if you do, be nice to Marissa, be nice to Chris. Know the stands. Remember, he's allowed to put his feet above the bar. He's allowed to put his feet above the rings. That's absolutely fine in grid. So thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Marissa and Chris. And we can end it here.